This is Sky News, live from Westminster, where MPs are about to try to change the direction of Brexit. MPs will vote on new amendments to Theresa May's plan the day after she promised to allow a future vote on delaying Brexit. Among the choices, Jeremy Corbyn's alternative plan for leaving the European Union. And they've been debating again all afternoon. MPs will soon begin voting in the latest twist in the UK's Brexit crisis. Welcome to Westminster Live, and another step on the unpredictable path through Brexit. In the next half an hour, the House of Commons will once again try to exert its authority on the process with changes to the government's plan. And in this special programme, we'll bring you all the developments and the fallout as it happens. Throughout the course of proceedings, I'll be joined by a panel of the finest political analysts and commentators. There they all are. I'll introduce them to you in a moment, but first panel to discuss. So let me introduce them. With me are Nikki Costa, former head of legislative affairs at Number 10, also the political journalist and commentator Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome to you both. And the Observer's chief leader writer Sonia Sodha. Good to see you. Not so good to see, of course it is, our very own chief political correspondent John Craig. We are gathered again. But listen, before we chat, let's just formally go through those amendments. I know that Kate McCann mentioned them, but let me show you to them written down on screen. These are the amendments that will be put to MPs this evening. First of all, this Labour amendment Kate was mentioning. It instructs the government to negotiate for a customs union with the EU, this close alignment to the single market, and seek guarantees on rights and protections for workers. Labour's existing policy. Okay. Next up will be the SNP amendment, and this is the House disapproves of leaving the EU without a deal, regardless of the exit date, because, of course, as things stand under Theresa May's plans, there is still the possibility of no deal. Now, again, as Kate mentioned, next amendment, Conservative MP Alberto Costa, who was effectively sacked from his job as a ministerial bag carrier, a PPS as they're called, for submitting this amendment. It requires the Prime Minister to seek UK-EU commitment to safeguard citizens' rights for EU citizens living in the UK and vice versa. So sacked but accepted by the government. Rather strange. We'll discuss that. And then there is, lastly, Yvette Cooper's amendment. It reiterates the commitment the Prime Minister made yesterday to let MPs vote on whether to rule out no deal and delay Brexit if her withdrawal agreement is rejected on March the 12th, and the government already said it will not oppose that one either. So, as I say, the thoughts of our panellists now, and there are a wide range of views within the Labour Party whether this is the right way to go.
That's absolutely right, and I think we saw that in the fallout after Labour announced this new policy this week. There was actually a significant amount of confusion about what the policy actually was. So you had shadow cabinet members saying very clearly there's a written briefing that's gone out. If our amendment on this fails, we will be backing a referendum on a credible form of Brexit versus staying in the status quo. Very clear message. Then you had a Labour spokesperson from Jeremy Corbyn's office briefing, oh, hang on a minute, actually that's not the case at all. So, you know, the divisions within Labour are such that you had contrary messages coming out.
But then you had Emily Thornberry and others tweeting, read my lips.
Absolutely.
I said remains on the paper.
I think the shadow cabinet has been completely unambiguous, key shadow cabinet members. And actually, I just think it's symbolic of this battle within Labour. So I think many of Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet members want the position as it is now, to be in favour of a second referendum if their preferred Brexit doesn't get passed by the Commons today. But there are key people around Jeremy Corbyn and Jeremy Corbyn's office, Len McCluskey, some of his key advisors, who really don't want Labour to be backing a second referendum. So it's symbolic of some of the very deep divisions we see at the top of the party.
And John, I suppose the thought occurs, well, at least Labour will be glad to be discussing this rather than anti-Semitism with the developments today.
Well, you could argue, of course, that Monday night's announcement from Mr Corbyn at the Parliamentary Labour Party meeting was to try and push anti-Semitism off the agenda. Well, that worked for what, 24 hours? And, Chris Williamson, of course, with his comments up in Sheffield at a Momentum rally when he said that Labour had been too apologetic over anti-Semitism, caused an absolute furore today. And after many, many hours, and no doubt strong interventions from Tom Watson, the Deputy Leader, and the Chief Whip, Nick Brown, he's finally been suspended. Now the
Sonia, with the whiff of no deal being taken off the table, is that more likely to get the Brexiteers, the ERG, to fall into line?
Yes, I do. And I still think, even with Labour's moving position on another referendum this week, I still think Theresa May eventually getting some form of her deal through, perhaps with a couple of minor concessions from the EU, is the most likely option. Yeah, and I think we will see many members of the ERG. I think Isabel's right. What Jacob Rees-Mogg said today is an important sign. I think if it comes down to no Brexit at all or Theresa May's deal, they will absolutely go for Theresa May's deal.
But if what you say comes to pass, people will then be saying, oh, the Prime Minister's played a blinder. I mean, look back to December when she cancelled the vote, then the 230 majority defeat of the deal. To turn that round would be unprecedented.
I don't think so. It's a blinder.
I mean, to turn that round is unprecedented, isn't it?
Well, yes, in some ways, yes. If she gets her deal through, it will be against where expectations were running 3 months ago. But let's not forget, once she gets it through, if she gets it through, there is this whole question about the future trading relationship with the EU, and we're immediately going to go into some very difficult conversations about that. So I'm not quite she's going to go, sure she's going to go down in history in 3 months as a Prime Minister.
Can I just say, there's also the question of Theresa May's own future, because there is a suggestion, of course, that the price some of those ERG MPs will demand for supporting her at the last minute is you've got to go in a month or so's time after the May local election, certainly this summer.
And then we have a leadership election. Well, that should keep us busy. Just let me flip it round. I mean, your thoughts on what might anything unite this House of Commons if it's not the Prime Minister's deal?
Possibly another referendum. I mean, I want there to be another referendum. I work for a paper. We've got a very strong editorial line.
Did you see there's just not the votes there, amongst MPs.
Yes, Nikki is right. It's very hard to see where the votes come from, but we are in an incredibly volatile political climate. Things can change quite quickly. So you never know. Stranger things have happened. As I said, I still think the most likely outcome is a Prime Minister's deal. I'm with Nikki. I think the idea that you manage to get a cross-party consensus around a softer form of Brexit, it's just really hard to see how that happens mechanically. I mean, we have a party system. There is whipping. It's very hard to see how you get some sort of cross-party leadership and how that would hold. Because what we've got to remember is that even if Theresa May gives guarantees around a softer Brexit being the final destination at the end of the withdrawal agreement, it's not legally binding, rather. It's just a sort of, mood music that's set with the EU. She's probably not going to last very long as Prime Minister. Who knows will be the next leader of the Tory party and potentially the next Prime Minister. It could be a hard Brexiteer. So I think Labour MPs who are sort of backing May's deal, thinking, well, this is better than another referendum, they should really be thinking very hard about it, because what they're essentially doing in some ways is giving the Conservative Party, if there's no general election, and whoever follows May, a blank cheque to negotiate what sort of final Brexit they want.
And that is precisely what many of the hard Brexiteers and the Tory party are hoping for. They're already shifting their target onto the next stage, reminding themselves that this is just at the moment about the withdrawal phase. What are we going to have afterwards? What is the future relationship? And what they would like to see is one of their number actually in number 10 and some representation for hard Brexiteers on the negotiations.
So there will also be some further finagling, I don't even know that's a word anymore, on the 12th.
A very fine word as well.
It's interesting looking at the chamber there, because Labour bench is pretty empty. Mr Corbyn at the Parliamentary Labour Party on Monday night said, we'll be backing the Cooper-Letwin amendment to rule out a no-deal outcome. And he went on to say, one way or another, we'll do everything in our power to prevent no deal and oppose a damaging Tory Brexit based on Theresa May's overwhelmingly rejected deal. But there do seem to be some Tories sitting as though they're not voting. They're on the left of our screen.
Okay, it'd be interesting to see. Sorry, Sonia.
I think one thing it's really important to remember is we're very focused, understandably, on the debate in the Commons and what MPs want. But no matter what MPs pass, whether they go for an extension to the end of June, it's very unlikely, as Nikki says, but if they did go for something a bit longer, there's another partner in this negotiation, and it's the EU, and they have to agree to whatever we ask for. And I think it was Isabel who mentioned earlier, they may not just agree to a token 3-month extension. Someone was pointing out the other day that actually, because of when the European Parliament breaks up for its elections, and they need to ratify any deal, it's really only an extension of 2.5 weeks of more meaningful talking time. The EU might say, well, sorry, we're not doing that. You're going to have to take a longer extension.
Just to underline what you've been saying, this from President Macron today, we would in no way accept an extension without a clear objective.
And I think we can all agree there doesn't seem to be a clear objective around it yet, apart from Theresa May really trying to ram her deal through.
But if it were